Okay, so let's build something with mesh. Now I'm gonna get a cylinder and I'm gonna turn this into a hexagon. Right, so I have 6 sides and I don't want the subdivisions of the caps. I can turn that to 0. Okay, so that's a nice hexagon. And since a lot of the stuff that you do with mesh is based on your pivot point, right? So scaling, rotating, randomizing, it's based on the pivot point. What I'll do with this is I will bring this up like so and bring my pivot point down here. Okay, so this would be like it's living on top of the grid. And then I'm going to freeze transformations on that. Okay, so now this will be set um, to be part of a mesh network. I could scale this, or I could keep the scale as is. Right, I'll just keep it as is for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out. So I'll just have a second one. Let's bring it out here. Okay, roughly, just want to measure that. Okay, so I'm going to get my first one. I'm going to put this in a mesh network. So under Masher Motion Graphics, I can say create mesh network. Let me just check. There we go. And here, under my distribute, I can find, let's say, how many do I want? Let's try like, yeah, let's say 30. And then I'm going to adjust my distance. Alright? And up until I get something like this. Okay. Right. So I don't need this one anymore. Like that. So I have these guys all the way over there. And that looks okay. I'm going to keep it as linear. And what I want to do now is want to add a replicator. I can go up here. I'll add a replicator. Okay, how many replicants do I want? That's a lot. Let's go say this much. Right, and then I can create a pattern with this. I can offset that. Then I can slowly bring this back down. Okay. Too much. Negative 0.85. A lot of this is just trial and error. Depends how accurate you want to be. 0.88. Ah. There you go. So I think that works. And just maybe number of applications. Alright. So now we have this. I'm going to save this first before anything happens. So let's say hex grid. There you go. Alright. Why not? All the way up to 100. Sure. Save. Okay. And then I'm going to add an offset to this one. Where are you? Offset, offset. There you go. Okay. And in the offset, all it is really is just offsetting your position, your rotation, or your scale, right? And I want to offset just my scale. So let's say 3. Okay, and remember, with your fall off object, I can control the effect of that. So anything inside the fall off will have this setting, so 3. Anything outside will not. So I'm going to create fall off object, and as you can see, oops, we have this. Right, so it's not sudden, right? It's gradual, so you can see it actually come up and down. Right, so I can make it bigger, and like so. Okay, as far as your fall off object is concerned, you select it, you can edit the settings for that. So for example, you can change it to a cube, right? So depends on the effect you're going for. Cube, you could have a mesh, you could use a NURBS curve. You can adjust, let's go back to sphere for this. You can adjust the inner zone, right? So how gradated it is, you could say. Right, so there. You can flip this, right? You can adjust display color, so if you want it so you can see it easier, it's right there. You can adjust the values, see? So now it goes down as it goes in. So bring that back. Yeah. And the mode here is interesting. So right now it's set to normal. It's like that. I believe if I set this to add, see, they just stay up, right? You could actually write with this. Okay, so there's that. You can have more than one. You can have multiple fall-offs in the same node, right? So I could have, let's say, a bunch of these just rolling along. Okay. But another thing that's useful is getting a map. Okay, so I can delete this. And what we can do is we can get a map, which is black and white, and we can use that to determine the effect of this offset. So I'm going to get a plane. Okay, so I'm going to set my plane to be roughly equal, or actually even if it's just a little bit bigger, that's fine. There we go. So this is going to be my guide. Right? So let's just grab a texture. So I'm going to make a surface shader. Assign that. What texture you use doesn't really matter. It's just that surface shader is easier to see. And I can add, let's say, let's get a ramp. Okay, so I press 6. I can see this is how the ramp is going. Like so. Alright, so let's do that. Okay, then I go back to my offset, and instead of a fall off object, I want a map helper. Okay, so I'm going to get this plane, middle mouse, drag and drop the plane here in the map helper section. Okay, so remember again, I am in my Mesh offset node, attach that, and then the map that's here, I want to attach that to my strength map. So that is this ramp. So I attach that to my strength map. Okay. And what you'll see is this. The ramp is now affecting the mesh network. Okay. So it's using the UVs of this guide object. So you don't have to UV this. So it's using the UVs of this guide. So I can actually fix this, right, and make adjustments by moving this thing around like so, right, or adjusting the ramp itself. Okay, so let's go get to that ramp. Okay, so you can do stuff like this. Remember, you have different kinds. You have your diagonal, you have box ramp, right? And what we want to do here is, let's get some interesting animation going. Okay, and I'm going to isolate just my guide. Okay, so I'm going to get a couple of colors, one white, one black, like so. So essentially, I want to have a ring that's going around like that. Okay, so it's expanding from the middle. Remember, I have a circular ramp. Okay, and so what I want to do here is I'm going to set keyframes. Let's say at frame 10, set key, and let's say frame 110 goes over there, set key, and then I'm gonna set key on this one a few frames later, let's say 15. I'm gonna set key on the position, and then at 115 this should be over here. There we go. Sometimes this doesn't give you correct feedback. This is a bit more reliable. Okay, so you have this, right? And then now I just want to add another ramp segment. So at frame 20, I'll grab this guy and set key, and then go to frame 120, move that over, set key again, and we should get this. See, there you go. Now if I bring back, if I bring back my mesh network, you would get something like that. Okay, there. See, and you can keep going. You can add more ramp segments inside. Okay, so I'm going to get a camera. Right, so I'm going to get a nice camera view where we can see this happening. Let's get a resolution gate going. There we go. Okay, so I don't want to see the end. Something like that works. Or something like this. There we go. And for coloring, what I can do with this, first let's save it. What I can do with this is I can add a ramp for the color. Now, you can add ramp as a UV texture. Okay, but there's also a way of adding ramp as a projection. Okay, so if you do it as a projection, what happens is it's not following the UVs of the objects. It's following absolute space, right? So anything in a certain area will get a color. Anything that's in a different area will get a different color. So think of this, you could think of this as a projection, really. Like something's being projected on the wall, and the wall's color is based on the image projected. So anything that goes inside that volume where the projection is going to get those colors, regardless of UV, right? And to do that, I'm going to make an AI standard surface. Okay, apply that to this object. Remember, when you make a mesh network, the result is called the repo mesh, and that is just like a polygon object. You can apply your material there. Okay, and now I want a ramp for my color, but I don't want to go and make a ramp this way by clicking on the checker box. I want to just create a ramp here, and here I have a choice. See, projection, stencil, or texture. If I go through here, it gives me a texture by default. But here I can now apply a projection. So it gives you a ramp, a place 3D texture, place 2D texture, and a projection node. Okay, and that's how it looks. Now it's the projection node that you want to connect to the base color. Okay, so press 6. That's what you get. Okay, and let's see how this goes. Try URamp. URamp. Okay. Let's try, for example, yellow and red. Okay, there we go. And to adjust this, I can get my place 3D texture node. I can scale this up. And I want to sort of fit this like that. So here you can see what's happening, right? Anything above a certain level is going to get a different color. And again, you can go back to your ramp and adjust that. Okay, so I can have it a more solid sort of red. Okay, I can have it go from white to yellow to red, right? Or let's say blue. And I get more red up top. Okay. If I do a play blast of this right now, this is what that looks like now. See? There you go. If I do a play blast looking through the camera, let's see how that looks. There you go. So this is a great way of making, just abstract effects. They look nice. They're great for motion graphics sort of things, where you just want visual interest. Okay, and this can be applied to like commercials or, let's say, station IDs, countdowns, interstitials, um, opening billboards, closing billboards, things of that nature. Now, if you just do a render, I'm going to save this before anything happens. I'm going to get Arnold, get a area light. Let's set this up. Okay, let's do a test render, and let's get going. say samples of 3, exposure of 12, 14. There you go. Right? There it is. So very, very useful, very, very visually interesting, very fun, very easy. Right? Hope that helps.